I was going to put a hat on.
You love your melon beanie.
I know. I love that. I love your beanie today. So beautiful. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the F.E.E.D Faces of Epilepsy every day. Your community, your platform for us to hear your stories and talk about all things epilepsy so that you don't feel alone and you feel heard, you feel seen, and you feel like you belong to something that is amazing, and that you're not hindered by any of that. So we're rewriting stories, right? That's what we've been doing. We're rewriting stories all week, and
all the time.
So everybody, I'm Lisa G. I guess that's what we're going with right now. I love it. And this is my co-host, Alyssa.
Hey guys, you can call me Alyssa, whatever you want.
Love it, love it, love it. So I'm excited to get into this today. So where are we going with all of this today? I was thinking about talking about even some of the stats with regard to epilepsy, because I'm always so shocked when I see that epilepsy is a rather large community in the US, several million people, and yet it gets the least amount of funding comparable to even Parkinson's, which is a much smaller community than epilepsy. And then when you take into account that dementia and Alzheimer's gets $4 billion a year in research, and yet the epilepsy community only gets like 200 million in research, and Parkinson's gets even more. So it's like, what? And
that's crazy.
More people have epilepsy than autism, and several other, diseases combined. It's very interesting to me. And I can't believe how little awareness and advocacy and research money and dollars and talk, so to speak, about epilepsy is such a real thing, and yet not that many people are talking about it. So interesting to me. Alyssa, what do you think about that?
When you told me that, when you were texting me that earlier, I was like, that's actually insane. And especially when you said Parkinson's, because my grandfather had Parkinson's, and I don't really see people with Parkinson's a lot, but I know so many people with epilepsy. So it's like, thinking about that, knowing somebody with Parkinson's, knowing that they get more I guess leverage or money spent to find a cure for them. We're not getting it, and so many other people have epilepsy. I'm like, we should already have a cure. That might sound crazy, but it's like, we have so many things going on, and we aren't capable of finding a cure for the one thing that's actually really, really hurting people in the United States or all over the world. Mm-hmm. Like, it needs to change, and the advocacy that we're bringing is 100% going to get there. I'm manifesting it.
I always think about too, I want to ask about something that just came up for me when you were talking about that. My son, Judah, who I lost to SUDEP, was diagnosed when he was 14 years old. So he was diagnosed as a juvenile epileptic, mm-hmm. and he passed away at 18. So during those 4 years is when he had epilepsy. He had many, many grand mals. He would have breakthrough seizures, meaning he was also on Keppra, then he was on Depakote. And Keppra, I know we talked about that last episode, horrible medication for my son. Not saying that, we want people to get off their Keppra, but I'm just saying for my son, it was a horrible medication. It made him homicidal, suicidal, the mood swings, the anger, the rage, was horrible, horrible, horrible. And they wanted to also put him on another medication. His psychiatrist wanted to put him on another medication. He wanted to take it. And so how do you kind of relate to that now? I was thinking, because you were diagnosed later in life with a very rare form of epilepsy, and you were driving. My son was not driving because he was 14, but when he heard he had epilepsy, that he was diagnosed, he just started crying so horribly because he knew that, you know, he wasn't going to be able to drive. And that's a huge rite of passage for young people. Now, you were someone that was already driving, then you were diagnosed, and then now you can't drive anymore. And I think that's something that we should talk about today, because I think a lot of people don't think about that. Yes, epilepsy is this community, right? Why isn't there awareness and advocacy? But then we don't realize that there are some things that epileptics cannot do, and yet they're not well funded, meaning that they're not supported. Single moms are not supported that have epileptic children, meaning that I felt like my son needed 24-hour care, because if he was to have a seizure at any moment in time, he could be really, really injured. Yeah. Not to also mention the fact that, you know, he couldn't drive. So I had to be there for him, chauffeuring him everywhere. And if he had to go to work or not, or whatever it was. So what did that play a big part in just your freedom? Like, how did that kind of go for you?
So I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was around 21. And after I found out that I wasn't able to drive anymore, it really hurt. It was like a ton of bricks just landing on my chest. And I felt like I wasn't able to even get up, because I was just like, are we kidding me? Are we actually kidding me? Because I've got a lot of people in my house, but they're always doing something. So it's like I've been home ridden for X amount of years. And the good thing about my mindset is I always make light of everything. So even though I can't drive, I know that my friends will always be nice enough to take me somewhere. If my family is capable of driving me, they'll always do that. But I remember and I remind myself that I am still capable of putting in effort. I am still a soul that is worthy. Just because I can't drive doesn't mean that I am not worth it. And we feel as though, and let me know if you guys feel this too, those of you who are watching that can't drive, it's like we have our rights stripped away from us somewhat. And it's, again, like you said, it's a rite of passage. There's a certain word that I'm looking for. We lost our independence. There we go. And that was one of the hardest things for me. And personally now, because I haven't been able to drive for 4 years now. I make the best of it, and I'm just like, hee hee, I'm a little princess now. Like, people have to drive me around. I like kind of make it fun.
Princess passenger. I love it. We got Mike. We got a new name, Princess Passenger. I literally
make like a little princess. I'm like, yes, you can drive me here and here and here. Of course, I have to make sure.
Mike, we need merchandise. Princess passenger princess.
I am a passenger princess, and I love it. And if you're a passenger princess, a passenger king, whatever you are, you are accepted and still loved.
Oh my goodness, isn't it good that we can have a little bit of a good time, you know, even around such a serious subject. And I think that's what I was you know, is that there's all these byproducts. Last week on Monday talking about, you know, last episode talking about how it's like seizures are a one-time event, and then there's no other byproducts of all these other things, the headaches, the nausea, the, you know, mood. That, like, when my son would have a grand mal seizure, it was like he ran a marathon. He would get a headache afterwards, and literally the day would be shot. He would literally be in bed the entire rest of the day. Like, that was it. That was it. He was done. He was exhausted. And physically exhausted. And oftentimes there would be back-to-back breakthrough seizures. So he would have one and then have another one. And like, even what Mike was mentioning, you know, a lot of times the neurologist, there were so many things that the neurologist never told us, is all the things that would happen after you have a seizure and what to expect. And, you know, and then even like with the driving piece, there's a lot of times where you can get your driver's license back after a year of not having a seizure. But you know how many people have actually had car accidents having seizures Even
Yeah.
though they had been seizure free for a year, then they started driving again, had a seizure on the road. It's really, really dangerous. So have you just continually had seizures, Alyssa, like that whole time to where you cannot drive, meaning that you keep having seizures because my son would always have them in the morning, like he would have them every 4 weeks, typically.
That's interesting.
And it would be in the morning, right before he would wake up. And, there was just a level of insecurity around that as a parent. And I think that's the other thing I would like for families to know is there's so much insecurity around that as a parent of someone that has epilepsy, that you just never know like what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
You never know if they're going to go to bed and not wake up. I think about you, I think about Mike being epileptics, and it's just in my spirit, in my heart, I just go, gosh, this could happen, to any epileptic. I mean, more people are die of seizures than we realize because the seizures are byproducts of so many other health challenges that happen when you're in the hospital even.
Like I said, when I was diagnosed with epilepsy, it's like my whole world was turned upside down. And when you say SUDEP and explained your story and all of this stuff, and that we really could honestly die at any moment, and to think about that might be a little morbid and sad. Yeah. But what I would say to people who are struggling with that is you just have to accept the life as it is and know that if you constantly think positive and like surround yourself with beautiful energy and not think of the negatives that come with this chronic illness, then you will live such a beautiful life. And taking it a day at a time has honestly been the biggest thing for me. And something that you were talking about before, you asked me a question. I'm trying to remember what it was. It had to do, you asked me about driving, and then what was the other thing? It was
well, we were talking about the seizures, like that one moment, and then just how you're finding ease around just your epilepsy, and do you think about that, like that it could be your last day on the earth?
Yeah. Whenever I go into those kind of thought patterns, I always actually pick up a little bear that I have from my past. I got it when I was 4 years old, and I just hug it, and I remember that people are always going to be with you no matter what, and you are always kind and loved and supported. And I just try, I know it's so much easier said than done, but try and remind yourself that you are 100% worth it and being here, and you are going to succeed. And just reminding yourself that, again, you are not, like I said before, this chronic illness. And I think the biggest thing that has come with these episodes for me and these seizures for me are the memory loss. Hence why even when people ask me to do certain things within the time span of 10 minutes, I could forget. And it's very frustrating. So if you're struggling with that, again, you're not alone. There are ways around it. I write notes to myself everywhere I go. And sometimes you just have to do that, whether it's on my phone, whether it's an actual sticky note or anything like that. That is definitely one way to help you when it comes to the memory loss. And also when some people get frustrated at me that I can't remember anything. And instead of throwing it back on them and making them feel bad and playing victim, I just remind myself, you know what, that's on them. That's their problem if they're upset that I am handling this the way that I am. And they have to deal with the fact that we have memory loss. Like you were talking about family and how, oh yes, Mike.
I was going to say, I want to jump in there. And
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree with you. And we are recording during the Christmas time of year. I just want to say, for all of you out there that want anyone with epilepsy to get you something, text it to us. Text it to us. We love getting, and nowadays we can shop from home. Shout out Amazon.
That's right. So,
or, but text it to us, right? Because then we have it. And quite honestly, epilepsy or no, man, we're busy, folks. There's a lot going on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Our entire short-term memories are designed to be filled with,
Mhm.
advertisements and social media posts and commercials, especially this time of year. We are inundated, right? So if you know somebody who has the condition we're speaking of, shoot them a text, or just a busy person, shoot them a text. And then deeper than that, you guys were talking about SUDEP, and I thought it was extremely important to pull up this info here for you guys to have. Let's see here, and this is the information about numbers here. And that is the sudden unexpected death in
Mhm.
epilepsy. And
Mhm.
the couple of things I wanted to point out here is that it affects approximately 1 in 1,000
Yeah.
adults with epilepsy each year.
Wow.
That is a huge rate,
Mhm.
right? And 1 in 4,500 children annually with
Yeah.
epilepsy.
Yeah.
And that is crazy. That is such a huge number. And I brought that number up because then this is diabetes. 27 deaths per 100,000 was the peak.
Yeah.
And now it's down to 22 deaths per 100,000, which is still awful and not great and not
Yeah.
anything we want in the world. However,
Mhm.
the idea that 1 in 1,000 are affected by this is
Mhm.
something that I think everyone should know,
Mhm.
specifically the folks affected by it and
Yeah.
caretakers as well, that
Mhm.
it is astronomically higher than diabetes.
Mhm.
It is astronomically higher than so many other things that are at
Mhm.
the forefront, that are better funded and more researched. So it is important that we have this community. And once
Mhm.
again, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Alyssa, for what you're doing, because it, to me, highlights the importance of this community and the seriousness of
Mhm.
the conditions that we're dealing with here. So thank you, guys. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, Mike, wow, that is really mind-blowing statistics when you think about and I think it's important to understand too. It's not like we're comparing and saying, "Hey, we don't want there to be research for Parkinson's or MS or dementia or Alzheimer's." We're just saying that there is a huge community here. There is a huge need here. And I sort of think that I know, like I mentioned it on the last show, but like I love, Alyssa, that you said living with epilepsy causes you to be present in the moment.
Yep.
And it's really true. Every epileptic that I've had the privilege and the honor to meet since starting Faces of Epilepsy, many moms that have lost their children to epilepsy. Even most recently, within the last 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, since we started Faces of Epilepsy. Through Judah's legacy, this is one of the causes that felt so needed. I never thought that I would be advocating for epilepsy or for the epilepsy community. But once I started to go down this bunny kind of rabbit hole, as Mike even just kind of pulled up those statistics, when you start to really do the research, and maybe next week we'll get into that and we'll bring up more of the statistics so everyone can see, it is really mind-blowing. I mean, really mind-blowing. And also too, there's a lot of famous people that have epilepsy, a lot of creative artists. A lot of people don't know Elton John has epilepsy. Prince had epilepsy.
Cameron.
Cameron Boyce, he lost his life to SUDEP.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very, very real thing to understand about living present in the moment and being in the now. And I always am just I think everyone that has epilepsy or is a caretaker of someone that has epilepsy, certainly the parents, are warriors. They are real warriors, around this big chronic condition, because at this point there is no cure for it. But we're hoping through Faces of Epilepsy, finding a cure for epilepsy, that there will be a cure one day for this, and that we'll be able to bring the great minds of the world together, to be able to get a cure for epilepsy.